What would you do if I told you to bake a cake to improve your art? By the end of this video, I promise you'll be a better artist with these 5 tips. Watch the whole video for a secret hidden bonus tip as well. And consider subscribing so you can learn more from me when my videos come out. Now, back to that cake thing. You might think I'm crazy, right? Which is pretty fair. But my first tip for you is actually to experiment within mediums that you don't typically use. And when I say mediums, I do mean baking, sewing, singing, writing, anything that seems even a little fun to you, even if you just want to call it a hobby and not a drawing form. You see, a creative muscle is needed for all of these things, and in order to thrive in any of these fields, including visual art, you need to learn to shift your creative mindset. Being a jack-of-all-trades type of artist, especially with hobbies that aren't traditional art at all, like cosplaying for example, will really put you ahead in the creative field, and it also gets you to exercise your creative muscles in different ways, which can in turn help you understand 3D forms, 2D forms, and all sorts of different things that you never knew you would need until you go on to that one piece and you're like, oh my gosh, I know exactly how to draw that because that's the kind of stitch that I used. Another cool way that these hobbies can influence your art is actually through your art style. Now you might not believe it, but think about icing a cookie for example. With royal icing, you typically have 3 consistencies: flood, medium, and stiff. Now, flood consistency is the most liquidy of them all and it's smooth. And when you think about it, if you're using 3 different consistencies and you like to bake a lot, when you draw, you might actually go towards 3 different brushes of similar types. For this next example, let's use music. For those of you who play music or play any sort of instrument, even sing, you are always trying to convey the mood of the piece that you're performing. And when you're conveying the mood, you have to go through your little toolkit. Think of your sheet music like it's a sketch, and your tools are actually your different volumes. So, for example, if you use a forte or a piano, those can convey very different meanings in your music. And also, the way that you play it too, for stringed instruments example, if you're doing pizzicato, you might have a whole different playful attitude that might not have been playful before. What I'm trying to get at with all these different examples is that your life experiences through other hobbies will completely influence your art, and that's totally a cool and good thing, and the more that you play into that, the better your art will end up being. Alright, tip number 2. This one is one that you're either going to hate or love. It's the foundation of being an artist, whether you're 5 or 50, but I know many stubborn people, including myself at some points in my life, who don't follow this tip are severely impacting their art in a negative way. This tip is simply to use a sketchbook. Now, don't click off this video and be like, Artie is wasting my time. Everyone knows this. I've heard this in like 3,000 other videos before. Sure, you may. However, do you know why it's valuable? Let's go over those several reasons real quick. So, firstly, a sketchbook is a place for personal self-expression. You can literally do anything in there, and yes, you can do anything in there, unless you choose to give it to someone. Your sketchbook is your personal little secret, and it's kind of like a visual journal. I ran this little experiment using a sketchbook a couple months ago because I am, like I said earlier, pretty lazy about it, and I wasn't quite convinced that I should use it every day. So what I did is I went 1 month without using a sketchbook, which was what my normal was, and I just drew digitally and made full pieces. And then I did another month where I used my sketchbook and I used it both to like draw and get ideas out and also just as a journal. So what I did is I learned to like write down the date and then put like a little doodle in of what happened in the day. And what I found from that experiment is that not only was it easier for me to draw both traditionally and digitally and come up with way more compositions in a shorter amount of time, but it also just improved my quality of life as well because I learned to look for small silly details in my day that I could draw at the end of it, and I was a lot more excited to go out and do stuff besides watching reels for 12 hours. Another real cool benefit of drawing in a sketchbook, specifically a mixed media one, this won't really apply to marker sketchbooks, but it's okay if that's all you got, is it improves your line weight and your pressure control. Unlike digital, the tooth of the paper creates more friction and it makes it more important for you to control the pressure of your pencil to make the effect that you want to have in your piece. This also is really helpful for your line weight, like I said, because when you're doing line weight, traditionally, you either are using something like a brush pen that's based off of your pressure control as well. However, if you're doing it with something like a pencil or a fine-tipped marker, you're actually making more of a conscious decision for your line weight than you would digitally, because most digital tools are pressure sensitive. So when you add thicker lines, that's way more conscious, and it's definitely going to embed in your art both traditionally and digitally way quicker and way more effectively, because you get to experiment and see, oh, that looks pretty cool. Alright, it's time for tip number 3. I want you to look at these two drawings and tell me which one looks better, and type down in the comments why you think it looks better before watching this next section. Alright, I'm gonna trust that you've done that. Don't break my heart, please. Anyways, you most likely chose this one, and that is because of its special effects. Special effects is a little bit underrated, and it's really, really easy for both digital and traditional. For digital, it only takes about 10 minutes max, and it can really save a piece. Trust me, I have been at the end of the line so many times, and then I just go on a little overlay, and I'm like, oh, it looks so much better. Thank you for saving me. Obviously, I could yap for like a million centuries about all the different special effects you can do. It deserves its own video, honestly. If you want a whole video about it, let me know. But my top go-tos that I can say real briefly here are, first and foremost, the vignette. The vignette, it's my favorite thing ever. It's so nice. It really adds mood to the piece, like instantly. And it's really easy to do. If you don't want to do it in your camera roll, you can just go in your digital app and click the airbrush, use black, and then just go lightly around the corners. Make sure your airbrush is pretty big. Second is chromatic aberration, third Gaussian blur, and then also overlays. All of these guys are in every drawing app that I know of. I've tried it in Clip Studio Paint, in Procreate, and in Ibis Paint. So really what you want to do is, if you can't find it just from the default settings, I would just Google it. It takes like 2 seconds to figure out where these little guys are, and just play around with them, because they're all super fun and make your piece look so much better, especially if you use Gaussian blur on the backgrounds and motion blur on the foreground. If you're scared that you're going to ruin your piece and you don't want to do that, I suggest creating a duplicate of your drawing. If you have multiple layers and there's an option to save it as like a Procreate or a Photoshop document, do that, because it'll save your layer information, and on your new piece, you can just go right ahead with the same exact layers that you've already got on the other piece. So it's really low risk, but it helps you mess around, and sometimes that might end up actually just being your final file. For traditional art, special effects can take a little bit longer sometimes, but it's still really fun to do. What I suggest for traditional effects is to use mostly mixed media and other mediums that are currently either mildly in your piece or just not at all in it. So for example, you can take things like wrappers, paper, candy, garbage, anything with like a fun little texture or color, and just glue it onto your drawing you've got there. Or you can use things like washi tape to create like a fun little border or background. And also, if you're doing something with, let's say, colored pencil, take watercolor and see if you can add something like a vignette with just the watercolor, because watercolor is very opaque, and it usually works pretty well on most mixed media sketchbooks that I've seen, at least. And it creates a nice little wash and can change the tone really quickly, and works just as well as digital. Alright, tip number 4. This is to be an observer and also a repeater. As someone, I don't remember who, once told me, you should look at something long enough until you can draw it, and I stand fully by this. Being able to observe is half the battle when you're doing art, because if you look at something and you're like, oh yeah, I know how to draw it, you might, but if you look at it for a good 2-3 minutes, you try and break down the shapes in your head, you're gonna do a lot better with that drawing than if you just glance at like a school bus and be like, I probably know what a school bus looks like. But to prove that I'm not some crazy random stranger on the internet, let's test it out, okay? So, right now, I want you on whatever you've got, whether it's like a sketchbook, your iPad, I don't know, Roblox speed draw. Alright, now look at this cute little image of a bat. Just look at it for the time that it's on the screen, don't pause it, and then go ahead and draw it for me. Okay, you'd make me really sad if you're lying to me right now, so please tell me that you have a bat in front of you. You promise you got one? Okay, cool. Thank you. Yay! Now I'm going to put him back on the screen for 30 seconds this time, and I want you to really break down the shapes in your head, see where there's circles, ovals, triangles, etc. And then, once the timer goes away, don't pause it on the reference image, and again, this is from your head, and draw the bat one more time. And look at the improvement that you've made. And really, when you're doing this in life, if it's too difficult to stand in front of a statue, like you gotta move and you're on a field trip and you're like, ooh, that looks super cool, just take a photo of it and you can always revisit it later. But this practice helps build your mental library of things that you can draw, and it helps you get a lot better of an understanding on form. If you've made it this far in the video, I want you to comment the flamingo emoji to confuse everybody who hasn't gotten here yet and is just scrolling through the comments. Now, it's time for the secret hidden bonus tip. Okay, are you ready? Is your curtains closed so that no one can watch or hear this? Because it's super secret. Alright, the tip is my critique and resource pack. For just the month of February, it is only $10 on my website, and what this includes is a limited crate for up to 5 pieces and a personalized resource pack based off of your art, your goals, where you're at, where you're going, all of that. We can have literally an entire dictionary, Shakespeare, DM with critiques for all your art, because if you have 5 pieces in mind, you can literally send whatever you want with questions, concerns, and then once you fix stuff, I'll also give you more credit. So it's really valuable because you get to see more insight from another artist's perspective, and I also absolutely love seeing all of your work, so I am very invested in this as well. Finally, we've got tip number 5, and that is use reference images! Please, 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 I don't care what stigma you've seen, please use reference images. I don't even need to explain this one. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate all of you who subscribed to the channel, and if you want to join, the time is now. Anyways, I will see you next week with another webtoon tutorial video.